But what's happening across the rest of the world is more important in real life. And I mean real life because folk are hurting everywhere in the US and Canada too, as food's going up 35%. Gasoline's about $1.40 a litre today in Canada or Ontario. Even though we make most of the gas they use in the US, by the way, most of the US don't even know that. It's made in Canada. They get it cheaper there and always have done than Canadians get it, even though it's made here. It's because Canadians are more laid back too and actually more dumbed down than other countries. They seem to be quite happy at being dumbed down. And I'm surprised today, even going into the little garage, not too far away, even in Toronto Sun, it's a rag that always has, its main story is always front page sports, or it's a female with hardly anything on, and that's what they give Canadians, you see. They even had a Sama's picture on that. I thought, oh my God, definitely a psyops operation when that rag carries that too. They've all been told to carry the nonsense. But anyway, as I say, and Harper too. I mean, it was amazing. I was out through the Canadian media today to see about the election, and there's hardly anything much mentioned about it really. Harper's back in again. Of course he is, because he's High Council on Foreign Relations. That he's their man, and he'll keep the war going too. Anybody else, of course, would have to pretend they were left-wing and pull the boys back home. So they want the guy to continue his masters do, and it's not, his masters are definitely not the public. So it was just like a non-event, the whole thing. And it wasn't even mentioned in some papers that he got back in. Anyway, that's Canada for you. But in Britain, for instance, there's an article here called The New Victorians. Families face the biggest cash crunch since 1870. 1870. And it says, it's the greatest pressure on their finances for nearly 150 years. Reporters warned that workers face a combination of inflation and low pay raises, or even freezes for a fourth year in a row, according to international financial consultants Deloitte. It says it will be the first time since the 1870s that real wages, the sum you earn after inflation has been taken into account, have fallen for 4 successive years. The report said average earnings will rise by 2.4% this year, and inflation is expected to be 4.4%. It's been a lot higher than that with all the extra fuel charges and stuff. And it says Deloitte's economic advisor Roger Bootle said households' disposable incomes will fall by £780 this year. And that's what I said about, you see, this is austerity. Your disposable income is the stuff that you'd spend on other things, extras, outside of necessities. Now everything will be spent on necessities, and even then you'll be lucky to meet the targets for those necessities. That's what austerity is, and that's what they mean by austerity. Anyway, this company, this firm, also predicts incomes will not return to 2009 peaks until 2015. Well, I'll laugh at that, because it ain't going to come back, folks. It's not planned to. And if you read the CFR's reports and look at all the greenies and the UN's agenda, you'll find out they don't plan to let you have disposable income eventually. It's astonishing too in the US how they can just keep borrowing and borrowing on the backs of generations to come, and get away with it only because it's such a large country, really. Even though they're not really producing anything much except from bombs, missiles and propaganda, that's born like crazy, and keeping a lot of prices artificially low compared to the rest of the world. But of course the piper will be paid eventually, and it's going to be chaos within the US, and they know this at the top too. They'll use every means possible to suppress the public when it all goes down again. You haven't hit bottom yet, and even the final crash hasn't come yet either. There's no doubt about that. But they've been planning this for the last 20-odd years, 30 years, with internal armies to take care of the fallout. We're going through a script, remember, a long-term business plan to take the world over for the few, and to eradicate what was once called the middle class.